G'day punters and welcome to Tab's Inside 50. I'm Nick Quinn and once again joined by the superstar former Hawthorn skipper Shane Crawford. Crawf, welcome to the show.
Nicholas Quinn, lovely to join you.
Now normally Crawf, I have a rule we don't say anything nice about you, but this week our guest Brodie Holland, unfortunately, he's going to break that trend.
Who was the hardest player to tag then?
I reckon Crawford would have to be up there.
Yeah.
That year, obviously I was still fairly young, at that stage and still building my fitness. And but he was just a gut runner, and he would run from forward pocket to the back pocket, back to forward pocket at a real high speed. Yeah. He never walked. His fast jog was about the slowest he would run, but he was in that sort of 3/4 pace all day.
Reluctantly, I'm going to introduce Brodie Holland on the back of that. I found some old audio of you praising Crawf here.
I've been trying to get on this show for a while, and I thought that was my best way to get on.
Where you're on, and you're my favourite guest. No, but you weren't always. I know we're not going to go straight into footy, Quinny, because it's okay. You can settle down. But you weren't always a tag. Yeah? We're going to talk a lot about you kicking goals and what you did up in the forward line. But it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I know you're still heavily involved in community footy, which is awesome.
Yep.
And we did have a bit of a link through our playing days because we love getting our gear off.
That's right.
But you grew up in Tasmania, didn't you? Or
I'm from Tassie, northern suburbs of Hobart, a suburb called Glenorchy down there.
Yeah.
So obviously did some of my best work down there, and then got drafted. In those days, it was 17-year-olds could get drafted. One club could take a 17-year-old, so I left pretty early and went over to the Dockers.
Yeah, so what did you think? So obviously playing days down in Tasmania, beautiful part of the world. I love it, but pretty fresh, pretty cold. So you got to get in and probably win your own footy in the mud.
Yeah. Look, most grounds were. Look, it wasn't really a lot of heavy rain down there, but it was always cold, always drizzly. So the grounds wouldn't be warm enough to dry the grounds up, so you'd always be a little bit muddy, and you'd have to go and win your own footy, no question about that. And I think that's part of the game that you don't quite have to be as strong at these days because of the way the game's gone. But
you don't even have to man up these days.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's changed a lot, hasn't it? But I remember as a 16-year-old coming through playing senior footy, statewide league down there, and geez, that was some pretty tough footy. And so you learn pretty quickly how to win your own footy and adjust to playing with hardened seasoned men.
Yeah, a great breeding ground. And so, what about everyone that comes from Tasmania is always in the representative teams? So you got the soccer team, you got Greenie down there, Brad Green, who. You got basketball, you got all those. So were you good at any other sports as well?
I was actually little athletics when I was a sprinter early days. So I was
100 metres?
100 metres, 200, and I stopped growing when I was about 13, 14, and that just cooked me. Everyone just went straight past me about that stage, but I was pretty quick from sort of, early days right through to I was about 14, and I did some national championships. I think came 6th in the 200 metre sprint when I was in under 13. So
that's cooking, like that. That's pretty.
The nationals, so that wasn't too bad.
That's a huge effort.
And then, I basically didn't get any quicker from there, and I didn't grow any further. So, it was just really cricket, athletics, and footy, and I wasn't much chop at. I was okay at cricket, but not much chop, and it was an easy decision just to put all my energy into playing some footy.
So, Brodie, obviously you're an excellent junior sportsman. When did you think, hang on a sec, I might go pretty far with this footy caper, I might be able to play in the AFL?
Yeah, look, I played state footy in the TAC Cup pretty early, so I was 15 playing in that comp. It was the first year that the Tassie Mariners had a side in the competition. So probably by that stage I still thought I had no hope, even though I was the youngest player in the competition and the team at that stage. But I remember the year after, my mate Russell Robertson got drafted, and look, I'll say it as nice as I can, but he probably wasn't in the best 7 or 8 players in the team at that stage, and he got drafted. And
he was sitting on people's heads.
Yeah, he was taking 2 big hangers a game and kicking a couple of goals, and that was about it.
Yep,
that's all he could do. We had a 6 or 7 drafted that year, and I was too young to get drafted. And I thought, geez, if Robbo can get drafted,
there's hope.
There's hope for anyone, including me. So no, I'm probably talking up a little bit, but he was probably, I think he finished 6th or 7th in the BNF that year. We had other players in front of him, and he was still able to get drafted, and obviously probably had the best career out of all of us that came through. But probably around that stage, I thought, geez, this might be a bit of a chance here.
So you play some good junior footy and you go into the 1997 national draft. And what a crapshoot this draft was looking back. You went pick 26.
What did you call it?
A crapshoot.
A crapshoot. I've never heard of that. Have you heard of that?
I've never heard of that.
What's a crapshoot?
Oh, well, a bit
Is that like
random.
Oh, right. There you go.
I'll explain why.
That's a first. So if I looked up in the dictionary, crapshoot, what would it say?
I'm looking at the producer, John, who's smiling. It was a bit random, the draft. We'll put it that way. You went pick 26. You had a wonderful career. The top players, Trav Johnston, pick 1. Brad Ons, pick 2. Trent Crowe, pick 3. We had Mark Bolton, pick 4. Luke Power, pick 5. Some other notable players that went. Chris Tarrant, pick 8. Chad Corns, pick 9. Pick 20, Dean Solomon. Pick 25, Nick Stevens. Pick 31, Simon Black. Pick 43, Adam Goods. And pick 45, Matthew Scarlett. So some excellent players in there, but a little bit random the way they sort of went.
Bit of a crapshoot draft.
Drafted in front of Goodsy. How about that? That's incredible, isn't it?
And
so he was
Simon
part of
Black
that.
was there too at 30 something, wasn't he? So
Yeah.
31.
And there's
He was.
because that draft was Adam Goods was a 17-year-old as well. So
Right.
I think Lance Piccioni would have been the 17-year-old for Hawthorn, if you remember Lance. So there was that. Every club would just grab one 17-year-old. So it's pretty daunting getting drafted at that age, especially going from Hobart all the way to Fremantle to play footy over there. I was really only just 17 at the time. So.
So what were you thinking? Like obviously growing up in Hobart, and then hang on, I'm going over to Western Australia. Had you ever been to Western Australia? Probably not.
I had been there once.
Oh, you had?
Yeah, I did one of the athletics carnivals, national carnivals. I was over there, but. Yeah, I love Perth, and I was ready for a move anyway. When you're playing in Tassie, you know that you at least have to go to Melbourne, so you've already you conditioned the mindset to going, okay, well,
They got the Bernie Dockers, so that sort of got you fairly familiar. Did you ever play against Bernie Docker?
Well, I actually played against him in my first league game, actually.
Okay.
As a 16-year-old for Glenorchy, so I played on Peter German that day. Going off the
North Melbourne champion,
a little bit. Yeah,
had a good coach, and
yes, very good
loves
coach.
to talk.
Yes,
loves to coach.
Loves a spray.
Oh,
wow.
Well, he coached at Hawthorn there for a little while, as an assistant, and he was fantastic. But gee, we couldn't shut him up.
Really? He was a good coach. He made finals nearly every year down there in the Bernie Dockers, but I don't think he won a flag. But they had some real success.
So tell us about your introduction to Fremantle. Obviously, they were trying to establish themselves as well. So, you move over there. Did you live with a family, or did you live with a couple of new players that had come along?
Yeah, I live with Spider Burton's mother, Teresa.
Right.
Mother Teresa. That's what they used to call her.
Was she tall?
Yeah, she was tall. She was taller than me. Oh, that's not hard, but for a female,
because Spider Burton he was like 212 centimetres or something
like
ridiculous.
He was the tallest player in the competition, the big Spide. Great family, very accommodating. So they had Heath Black and Jess Sinclair were with Mother Teresa the year before. She couldn't wait to get them out, and then I came in after that. So she had a couple of rough years in a row. But we stayed with her for 12 months, and then I moved out with Jess Sinclair and Trent Carroll for a year, and that was a bit of an eye-opener. I was a 19-year-old, and some of the antics that those boys got up to. But,
well, I'm sure you were involved there as well.
Oh, no.
You've just virtually blamed them, so I was just following along.
Yeah, that's right.
It's got to be done, though.
Yeah, we lived in Swanbourne, just behind the nudist beach there.
So is that why you're going for those extra runs all the time down the road?
Jeez, I got fit.
I can assure you, Quinny would have been the one going for those runs. Have a look at him. So I didn't know there was a nudist beach over that way. So
What a shame you're not still doing postcards.
Was it busy? I'm heading over to Perth in a few weeks.
Yeah,
so
check it out, Crawford.
Hopefully I'll look and see whether the sun's going to be out. But was it a busy beach?
I only ran past there once or twice, but it's when in the middle of summer it gets really busy. Like it's chock-a-block. Yeah, it's
you're right. And so when you're running like along a nudist beach, do you have to get nude yourself?
There's a point where you just strip down and just keep moving. No, you don't.
Come on, Quinny, get us back on track.
The locals look at you a bit weird because you've still got your clothes on.
Quinny's writing nose down. He's saying, okay, next time I'm over there for tab.
I'll share the link on Google Maps for you, Quinny.
Good deflection. Are you believing his deflection here that
do you?
Me that's interested, not him.
No, I don't believe it.
Now, you went to the Dockers team. They were still a new club in the AFL. What was it like going there? What was the feeling? Because I've heard you say that it was a challenging period off the field for the club as well as on the field.
Yeah. No, very challenging. Obviously didn't win too many games over there. Look, I thought we had a lot of talent. We had a lot of good young talent. I just think we probably didn't quite have enough really strong leaders. And we had a couple of really good leaders, but leaders that are high-end players as well that could sort of teach the kids and get them to understand what it takes. We were sort of just running our own show and we were probably partying a little bit too much, that younger group. And
well, you just work it all out, aren't you?
Yeah, and look, it was a little bit like somewhere between a waffle club and an AFL club, probably more of a.
And back then, it was still a social environment. You know, you had to be a professional, but you still actually got to go out and have a good time.
Yeah, that's right. I remember
just no phones.
The captain at the time, in I think my first year, used to say after most games, grab a six-pack, boys, straight back to my place, and we'll, you're not allowed in unless you got a six-pack, and you're not allowed to leave until you've drunk it.
But do you know what? As a younger player, you probably didn't want to do that. You probably wanted to get out and mix and mingle and go and meet some people.
Yeah, well, you did. I suppose it was your comfort zone being around the boys, though, especially being from interstate. You didn't really know anyone, so it was really at that stage, you're happy to be around the boys and happy to socialise with the same people until slowly you branch out. And look, Perth is fairly insular too. I was only there for 3 years and used to start to see the same people, the same cafes and the same nightclubs and pubs and all the rest of it. So it was, it's fairly insular. I actually remember driving down the street and getting pulled over by the police for just a random check, and he goes, "Oh, you're that kid Holland that just got drafted." I'm thinking, "Wow, this guy knows me. This is amazing!"
Right.
And then when I came over to Collingwood, it was like you'd think the biggest club, everyone would know you, and no one really knew you. So the 40th player on the list in Fremantle will be fairly well known around town, whereas you probably have to be a big name in Melbourne because it's such a big place to be recognised.
How did you get to Collingwood? Was it the same time that Clement?
Yeah, same trade with Jimmy
it was the same trade,
It was a three-way trade, and Jess Sinclair was in the three-way trade as well in the end. So North Melbourne, some swaps, and Peter Bell got to Fremantle. Jimmy Clement and I got to Collingwood. So Collingwood Fremantle got the best deal. They're getting Peter Bell, I would have thought. But Jimmy Clement's a double All-Australian.
Geelong get two decent players for us.
Yeah, so... obviously, everyone won out of it at the end, but we did really well, and obviously with Jimmy Clement, ended up winning 2 best and fairest and 2 All-Australians, probably the best defender I've ever played with. Fremantle did very well getting Peter Bell, and it's probably what they needed at the time. And North Melbourne unluckily got Jess Sinclair, who's not much chop, as we know. But he's a mate of mine, by the way, everyone. So just so you know.
You need to throw that in so it doesn't look like you've been nasty.
Yeah, that's right. So that was an interesting one because I had a pretty ordinary year. I had a lot of back disc trouble that year, and I had a couple of cortisones, epidurals, and this, that, and the other, and couldn't get out in the park. I finally got out in the park, and Damien Drum and I had this love-hate relationship. He thought I should be as good as Ben Cousins, and I'm thinking, mate, he's probably a little bit ahead of where I'm ever going to be. And he thought I should work a lot harder. So he made my life hell and made me work really hard for everything, which, looking back now, was probably a bit of a blessing. But that year, I think I kicked 2 goals against Richmond, played my role to a tee, finally got back in. It was about round 17. I finally started to get some momentum, and he dropped me for the next week, and I'm going... and the problem was I'd train the Friday night looking to go into a Sunday game. And as you know, you got a couple of days up your sleeve. I'll train a bit harder. I need to get a bit of work in. So I absolutely trained as hard as I could. And then he said, "Oh, mate, you got to play at 1 p.m. tomorrow for South Fremantle." And hadn't told me after training. So I'm just going, I was furious. And that was probably the last straw for me. And I thought, let's get me out of it. I rang my manager on the way home, said, just get me the hell out of this place. And I was kind of just a little bit over Perth as a general rule, and being so insular and all the rest of it. So that's probably how it all happened.
You spoke about your captain at Fremantle, very keen to get the boys together for a beer. Was that Peter Mann or Chris Bond?
It wasn't Chris Bond. Peter Mann loved a beer. Like, he was from old school North Melbourne days, obviously. They're very famous for going hard, drinking hard, and going hard on field and winning a couple of premierships through that era as well. So he came from that obviously group of players at North and brought something similar over culture-wise. And look, he was great. Don't get me wrong, good player, great fella. Had some great attributes, but just was right in. Obviously, it worked at North Melbourne. That's kind of what he tried to carry into Fremantle. But obviously, we needed a little bit more than that, and the game was changing probably around that time as well.
What about flying from Perth to Melbourne or to Sydney to Brisbane every second week?
Yeah.
How much did that knock you around?
Yeah.
And were you business class? Or no, they put
just with the
everyone was economy.
Yeah.
So it's pretty tough on the body.
It is tough. I found it quite challenging. I just got a lot of back trouble in my early years, and just travelling a lot. I didn't play too many good games away, to be honest. And that's what
it's not necessarily mental. It's physical. It's like you feel like.
Correct.
You're in holiday mode and your body's just not sort of working the way you want it to work.
That's right. It is a hell of a hard. And we weren't a really hard contested ball team. We were a bit more outside and quick. When you come to Melbourne, and although the grounds are still great, it's just that slight shift in, you know, a little bit of in the ground, and obviously they got the home crowd, and we were pretty young as well, so we went through away games, losing by 10 goals consistently, game after game there at different stages.
Yep.
So it was really tricky, and that was one thing I really loved about Collingwood when I went there is you probably play 4 away games a year, and one's in Sydney and one's in Adelaide, you know, so, and you're playing 14 plus games at the MCG. So
in front of a very loyal supporter base.
Yeah, correct, that's right. So it was a good change up, no doubt.
Final question before we park the Fremantle part of the career. You're 3 years there. What was the relationship like between Fremantle and the West Coast Eagles? Did you still think it was an Eagles town? And even all these years later, do you think Fremantle's really established a stronghold on WA?
Yeah, no doubt we were probably the little brother of the town, and we were just trying to find our way. I think we lost the first 9 derbies over there, and that was really tricky. They were just extremely arrogant with us, and when we played them, it was frustrating. Because I was an angry little ant too, so I hated the way they treated us, and I'd really try to help us get more aggressive, and they were just all over us for so long. And I was lucky to be part of the first ever derby win, which was huge. It was
like a grand final.
It was like a grand final. You've got no idea. The crowd were going berserk after the game. We knew we had it won halfway through the last quarter. I think Brad Wirra did the aeroplane, and it was just everyone was going berserk. And then they rolled out the red carpet that night at the Left Bank Hotel.
Wow.
It was like nothing I've ever seen. All the supporters were there watching us walk into the left bank. All the drinks were on the left bank, and the club paid for everything. Dinner that night, buffet, everything. It was just crazy, and we did not win another game for the rest of the year. Well, we actually lost.
But it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. It did not matter. We
ticked the hoodoo.
Correct. That's right. Got the monkey off the back, and away we went. So that was fun. So that was probably that, and also I suppose. We beat the first ever win on the MCG with Fremantle as well. So that were probably the 2 great things and that I got to do for the Fremantle Football Club. I think Modra kicked 10 goals, 1 or something that day.
He played a year with Modra as well, which is, you think back to his Adelaide days, he was football, wasn't he? Everyone wanted to be Tony Modra. They wanted to jump at the packs, take a high mark and kick a goal like Tony Modra.
Yeah, he was an interesting character, great fella, so laid back, so casual, and learned a few good tricks off Mods. He used to think that everyone was there to watch him play, and that was it. He's here to perform. He's the entertainer. That was how he approached games. But yeah, he'd be up there with the top couple of players, top probably 2 or 3 players that I played with. I think he 75 goals in a season where we finished 14th for Fremantle. Is just. And kicked 10 goals on the MCG that year against Melbourne. So he was some sort of freak, that guy. Yeah. And
so you get to Collingwood, a wonderful club, great supporter base as we mentioned, but you love kicking goals yourself, So I used to think of you as very much, a goal kicker. But in one game, 2002, round 2, done my research, kicked 8 goals, 1. So is that true? Do you remember kicking 8 goals?
I do remember. It popped up the other day because it was the 20th anniversary of that game, which was Chris Judd's debut as well.
Oh, really? There you go.
Yeah, so it always pops up. And
so that hatred of West Coast continued on to Collingwood?
Yeah, well, it did. In fact, I think I played first or second game for Fremantle against West Coast and kicked 3. And then, the next year I kicked 8. But that was just one out of the box, just one of those days where you've had it. I mean, you get it. You have it most weeks where the ball just keeps coming to you.
No. To kick 8 goals in an AFL game, especially not as the key target.
Yeah.
Don't walk over that very quickly.
Well, the first
Build
quarter,
it up, pump it up.
I was very fit at that stage and I was light. I was like 76 kilos. So I'm not unfit now, and I'm 86 right now.
Yep.
So I was really quite lean, and I was just real running fit for the first time in my career, and I felt like I could outrun anybody at that stage. And then I played on a fellow by the name of Drew Banfield, who's come off 2 ACLs as well, and I was zipping around the forward line.
So he couldn't turn.
So I was just going one way and the other, and he was just like on ice skates.
He was turning like a Titanic. So did he stay on you for the whole game?
No, I think I kicked 3 on him, and then or 3 might have been 4, and then Braun came over to me. So I didn't kick a goal, I don't think, for a quarter and a half, and I kicked another sort of 3, I think, in the last quarter, or at the end of the third and last quarter. But great day. That was like one that I just was on a whole lot of adrenaline rush for about 24 or 48 hours after that one. It was like I sort of won a final off my own boot type thing. It was a whole lot of fun. But the ironic part about that was I didn't kick a goal for the next 3 weeks after that. I got tagged like you would not believe. You know what it's like when you get tagged, but you're probably a bit better at breaking them than what I was.
Well, it's harder in the forward line because, you got to rely on the midfield delivering it. Nice and
most
quick.
of the time in those days, the halfback flankers play pretty tight, but I'm talking I got bashed. Like the next week, Franchina from Carlton came on to
the
me,
great Anthony Franchina.
and it was wet. And I think, oh, here we go, and he's like
bashing
the whole day bashing me, and I think I had about 6 touches, no goals to my name the very next week. So you can come crashing down pretty quickly from a high like that, can't you?
So obviously you play forward, but then as your career progresses, they push you up through the middle.
Yep.
And then you become a bit of a tagger. So you go from kicking 8 goals, saying, hey, come and tag me and play on me, try and stop me, to all of a sudden you become a bit of a stopper. So it's a real big turnaround. Who was behind that?
Yeah, so it was an interesting transition. So that year I did my hammy mid-year, Queen's birthday, came back late, just didn't quite get fit enough. The boys were flying, got into the grand final that year, didn't quite get fit enough form for finals, so I didn't play any of the finals or the grand final that year. And I thought, geez, this is a tough position, forward pocket. If I'm going to have to take my career to the next level, I really need to get into the midfield, which is where I played a lot of my juniors anyway. And I asked the question, can I play in the mids? And Mick said, oh, look, if your form's good enough, we'll put you in there, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, I was fit again at the start of the year. And
so that was 2003?
That was 2002 coming to 2003. Yeah. I actually remember missing out in the grand final. I was filthy because I was first emergency at the end for the grand final. Filthy to miss out. All the boys went. They were wrapped, even though we lost. Collingwood have come from nowhere to make the grand final the first time in however long, and all the boys were going to Cancun for the footy trip, and I paid $5,000 all inclusive, and I said, "No, I'm not going." And I went to Thailand with the missus, and I just ran and trained every single day,
looking for those nudist beaches.
I ran a long way. I couldn't find any over there, unfortunately.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, getting back to the story, I trained really hard and got back. I was in really good nick, and I asked if I could play mid. When I got back and I was really lean, said, look, you're in great nick, let's give it a go. And played all mid through the off-season and pre-season games, and got to round 1 where they put me in the forward pocket again, and I think I got suspended out for a couple of weeks. And then I asked Mick, I said, can I tag? So he goes, go back to the 2s, and we're not going to put you straight back in after being suspended. Yep. Well, if you tag well in the 2s, we'll put you in. So I did a couple of good jobs there, and played about 4 or 5 games in the 2s and back in. And I had the second game I tagged your good self. The first game I tagged Matty Bode. Remember Matty Bode from Adelaide?
Yes, yep.
He was sort of a half-forward flanker, and that was we won that night. We hadn't been in Adelaide for a while over there, and it was a big. I think Chris Tarrant kicked that last goal on the siren, if you remember that, going back a while. Did a really good job on him. They said, "Rightio, well done, Dutchie. Great work. You're back in. You found yourself a spot. Now there's a role for you here. Now you got Crawford next week." And I'm thinking, "Oh, geez, here we go. this will be interesting."
You probably tried to bash me. I can't remember. There's a lot of people trying to whack me.
Yeah, I reckon you whacked me first, actually.
Yeah,
game.
good.
Yeah, you got on the front foot. I reckon you knew I was going to come for you, and you just got on the front foot. You might have got some info that I was going to go to you. I remember Crawford just whacking me, like literally the first time I put my
Accidentally, Quinny.
put my arm across him, and he's just like, it was a bit of a jumper, punchy sort of thing, and I sort of played for a bit of a free kick. Next thing you know, Crawford's up, and he's in the forward pocket. I'm still in the back pocket. I looked up and go, "Where'd he go?" And I'm still looking around. He's running around for 4 minutes on his own. I didn't know how to locate him. But that was a tricky day, because I just remember thinking, I don't even want the ball today, because I don't know what to do. I'm so tired. I don't know what I'm going to do with it when I get it. Now, a couple of times I just fed it to a guy 2 metres away when I should have probably kicked the footy, because I was under so much fatigue. But I always remember that game as a bit of a launch pad. It gave me the confidence, both mentally and physically, from a conditioning point of view. I felt like, because I ran so hard that day, it gave me the confidence to go on to other players of that type of quality and hold my own.
So it ended up being a good year for you, didn't it? So 203,
Yep.
You're playing the grand final,
Yep.
And you finished second in the Copeland.
No, that was 2005.
Okay, there you go. You got my stats wrong.
I'm still
I'm
impressed.
not far off.
I'm still impressed. I'm still impressed.
Can we do that again?
So you come second in a Copeland, and that's off a run with type of role?
Well,
or a
by that
midfield role?
stage, I think the next year, so I ran with all year. The 2004 was probably half and half. I did a bit half forward, mid, and tagging. And then the next year, 2005, I probably started tagging a bit, and then I was getting a lot of footy, so they just said, "Oh, just run your own show." And I started, and we were going pretty ordinary, so I was probably the one getting most of the touches at stage. I think Bucks was injured a lot that year, and Liquor was in and out, so we had a few injuries. So I ended up becoming one of the prime movers through the middle, and which was great. So I was let off the leash, and I was really fit.
And mentally, it's different, isn't it? Like when you've got to run with someone, you can't.
No.
You can't have a break, and you can't mentally switch off, because whoever you're playing on gets himself into the game, gets dangerous. Whereas, at least if you're just trying to go and get the footy and feed it to your teammates, mentally it's a different application, very much to playing down back. Yeah. You're looking around trying to find your opponent, trying to watch the ball. So it's very different mentally, and it can really zap you depending on your role.
Yeah, well, I found it really challenging that year, because you'd be going from Crawford to Ackermanis to, Brent Harvey I played on a couple of times that year as well, and he was probably a little bit similar to you, probably a little bit quicker off the mark, but I think your endurance was probably a little bit better. But he would just zip around, and he'd go from back pocket sprint to forward pocket, and then he'd rest. Whereas you probably wouldn't rest as much. He'd sort of slow jog. You'd fast jog the whole way through. So there was different types, and playing Scotty West as well, and guys like that. So I kind of like those guys a little bit more, where they just plod around a little bit and just read the game well. They can't sort of expose you as much, going inside 50 and hitting the scoreboard and so forth. So, but yeah, you're right. Look, that was really tricky, and mentally, I remember one stage going, "Geez, I thought I was going to have a rest. Now I got Ackermanis this week." Like 5-6 games of tagging in a row, and it just didn't let up.
I want to go back to 2002, grand final day. You're an emergency. What's it like that week where you're so close yet so far to play? And I can imagine it must be a real challenge with the mind, because you never want to see a teammate get hurt, but you'd love the opportunity to play.
Yeah, I always look back now and thought, geez, I wish I had have just annoyed the hell out of the coach more than what I did. I was pretty quiet then, and I was just happy to just, train my hardest and see what happens. And I remember that whole final series. I remember everyone coming, "Geez, you're training the house down here." I've never trained so hard and so intense in all my life, because I just thought, I just want to play in a premiership more than anything. And I was trained like a madman. I was just like just a fly zipping around everywhere and just pushing through the cones and just, everything. And the coaches were saying, the players were saying, geez, I hope you get in. And then went through that whole process, and I actually still thought I was pretty close to the death, but I didn't say anything to the coach, and I always will regret that, saying, not going up to Mick and going, just stick me in, I'll make it happen. I wasn't quite confident enough to do that at that stage in my career, and not to say it would have made any difference, but I know coaching now, just even at local level, when you got a guy in your face the whole time.
Just give me a go. I won't let you down.
Yeah.
The trust.
Correct.
It's like, do you know what? He'll run through a brick wall for me.
Correct.
Whereas this player 20 over here, little question mark about.
Yeah. That's right.
The weather's, shiny, the sun's shining, good conditions and so forth. Some players can adapt, whereas you get someone who chipping at your heels going, hey, get me to the side, you just throw them in. Away you go. You can trust them. Yeah,
that's right. So, that I wish I had done that and didn't do it. And I went through all the process, and I did the obviously the parade and everything. And but unfortunately, I was sitting there drinking bevies after half time, just trying to ease the nerves. And look, I do believe if I had the opportunity to play that game, it would have held me in good stead for the next year. Like, I was pretty ordinary in 2003 in that grand final. I think I was just so nervous. I felt like I played the game in my head far too often. But if I had that experience in 2002, I would have played far better the next year and been able to help the team a bit more. It's
funny you say that, playing it in your head, because you can watch some games of footy and you can see some players, on big occasions, even, yesterday, Anzac Day, you can see some players have been thinking about it all week and playing over moment by moment what's going to happen. But footy's so unpredictable. You don't know which way the ball's going to bounce. You don't know the weather conditions that are coming your way. You don't know what the opposition are going to throw at you. So it's it takes you time, doesn't it, and experience to actually get your head around all that and actually understand that you can only control that moment by moment as you get out there, right? And it's okay to think about things, but you got to find a way, think about them, then move on and distract yourself for the rest of the week.
Yeah, that's right. And I probably had a few things that I would have done differently if I'd done it all over again. And I think I had my parents staying with me for the full 2 weeks. So we won the prelim in amazing fashion. I think we beat Port Adelaide by 50 points, and
so you feel like a tour guide?
Yeah, so you sort of
worrying about tickets.
They love their footy, so they're talking about footy, all the time. And I think the best preparation for someone playing a grand final would to be go up your way and just have a week together with the team. No Herald Sun, none of that, no media.
Train hard, switch off, go and do other things.
Yep, and you just fly into the MCG and just go get it done. It'd be a whole lot different mentally.
Well, that's what a lot of clubs do, don't they? With their interstate trips, they treat them like a business trip. Let's just get in, get the job done, get out of there, and let's not overthink it. Let's just play it ball by ball, and away you go.
That's an interesting one, because when I was coming through, they started getting there 2 or 3 days before. We've got to condition ourselves to the climate or the weather or the jet lag, whatever it might be. But that's changed, as one of the things that's changed over the course of time.
And the big thing we found towards the end of my career, and obviously it would have been early in your career because you were flying over from Perth all the time, is you get to the hotels and you got the buffet. So they go, you've got your own private setup for your footy club, and that you got your rice and your meat and veggies there, and then you got a couple of steaks here, and you got some chicken here, and then you got some jelly, some fruit salad, some ice cream down the end,
and some muffins to take away.
And take these to your room and whatever. And as you said, you felt light and you felt quick at home, but you come over here, you feel 2 or 3 kilos heavier.
Everyone gets
and you play accordingly. Whereas we, by the end of it, we had no buffets. You had your own meal, which was what do you normally have before? I'll have some spaghetti bolognese. Right, that's what you get, nothing more. So players weren't overeating, you weren't over drinking.
That's interesting.
And the performances went through the roof.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, but you were doing that, especially a young kid coming from Fremantle.
Yeah.
Every second week, you're like, how good's this buffet?
Yeah, 100%.
This is unbelievable.
And I used to eat, when I was nervous, I used to eat. So that's the worst thing they could put in front of you. Like, I'll have an entree, we'll have soup and bread, and then we'll go to the pasta and the salads and so you'd always take 3 or 4, muffins under your arms and hide them in your bag on the way out and put them in your room. So
you run around feeling like you got cement boots on.
Correct.
What's wrong with me today?
Yeah, correct.
Well, it's about 10 kilos of food you've been eating over the last 2 days.
Yeah. No, it's not good at all, but definitely preferred, obviously, the setup, being in a Melbourne-based team and not having to deal with all of those things. I had enough of the travel at Fremantle days.
Now, you mentioned in 2002, Collingwood lost that nail-biting grand final against Brisbane, but it felt like a huge success. The team had basically come from the clouds, made the grand final, young list, and you felt great about life. Going into the 2003 grand final, the team had comprehensively beaten Brisbane first week of the finals. You come back in the team, smash Port in that prelim.
Yep.
What was it like the lead up to the granny? Was there just a sense of excitement, or were you guys thinking...
Yeah, look, we were all pretty excited. I just remember... I just remember being so nervous, like I've never been nervous before, and playing the game over my head a million times over. We thought that we were better prepared this time around. Like we really felt like Brisbane were kids in the qualifying final, and then they were just monsters on grand final day. They just changed our whole demeanour and attack on the game, and we were without Big Pebbles, Anthony Rocker as well, who got suspended. Unfortunately, so he was a big one for us because he's obviously very physical. He'd come in nice and strong off the line at centre half forward and keep him honest. So that was a pretty bad loss. I know, in my heart, I feel like anyone would have beaten us that day, as good as Brisbane are. Probably the best team that I ever played against when they're at their best, no question about that. But I just felt like we were nowhere near it. We unforced errors and just a couple of soft efforts at the contest, and you just go, geez, we haven't played like this all year. And it wasn't that Brisbane were doing anything at that stage, anything that they normally wouldn't throw at us, and we reacted differently. Look, they were intense and they were hard. There's no question about that. They were ferocious, but
they were big and strong, weren't they?
Yeah, they
were.
Even
their midfielders were strong.
They were. I started on Ackermanis, and he was probably best on ground in the first quarter, just about. He got him going, and I just felt like, you were talking before about feeling like you've got concrete boots on. I felt like that grand final day in 2003, and I basically played most of the second quarter on the bench because I was going pretty ordinary. They put someone else onto Ackermanis. And then I went on to Simon Black, and obviously he probably runs a little bit similar to yourself, and I reckon he had 10 touches in the first 10 minutes of the third quarter. And I'm going, geez. And I've never tried so hard in all my life, and I just couldn't run with him. I just couldn't go. And it was just the legs wouldn't carry me. And I just feel like it was that build-up of overthinking, talking footy too much, maybe doing a little bit too much on the training track that week, just everything. Probably nervous, eating too much. Didn't have the buffet, but probably did, a whole lot of things more different than I normally would, and felt terrible, and the nerves probably got to me a bit as well. Yeah.
What was Mick Muldowns like after the game?
Oh, look, he didn't take it lightly, to be honest. He ripped right into us, And
do you reckon that's setting the scene for the following year, just to try and mentally get everyone to go, okay, we've got to improve. We've got to find a way to be better.
Oh, I think so. I think the problem was we probably needed maybe at that stage a bit of a pat on the back and go, look, we were just off. It was just something not quite right that day, and he gave us a rocket and we deserved it. There's no question about that. But to be honest with you, I couldn't remember one word he said. I was that distraught. I just heard him yelling, and that was it in the background. And I was just going over my own game and mistakes that I might have made, or when different things, and it was just shattering, really. So, but we put Collingwood back on the map to a certain degree at that stage. They'd been out of the fray for a long period of time, and at least we were a successful team, played in a couple of grand finals in a row, and it hurts not to win a flag. It still really kills me now not to be able to say I'm a premiership player, because we had that opportunity, but that's the way the cookie crumbles.
And you played, as you said, you like to play pretty tough, and you like to annoy the opposition, which is good. There's nothing wrong with that. These days, you probably wouldn't be able to get away with that. You're not allowed to harass players.
No.
You're not allowed to even look at the umpires these days and put your hands up. But you got suspended for Brett Montgomery. What happened there?
So
accidentally whacked him? Or?
Yeah, no, look, we'll tell you the true story. So
How many weeks did you get?
I actually got 4, but remember,
that's
I had a
pretty
bad
good.
record carryover.
Okay.
Remember they had carryover points?
So you're blaming your record for
Well, I
extra
am
weeks.
because I got 6. I should have
okay.
only got 4.
Right.
But I got the
Yep.
extra 2 put on top because of a bad record, and you had
Yep.
those carryover points. But yeah, I remember I was
6. So say 4, 6 these days.
Yeah.
It's probably like a 10 back then.
yeah. Well, yeah. I reckon they'd throw the book at me even more so now with all the head high stuff and the fact that he got concussion as well.
Oh, is that because I can't remember the incident.
Yeah.
What
so
happened?
it was interesting. Like if going right back, we were terrible for 2 years in a row. We had a heap of injuries. So 4 and 5, we didn't make finals. We were back in, got Thomas and Pendlebury in the draft, and then we were back into the finals for the first time. We were sort of hovering in 3rd and 4th all year, clearly 3rd or 4th best team, and we lost a couple late or whatever and finished 5th, and we were shattered to finish 5th. And we played Bulldogs who snuck into the 8.
Yes.
So we thought, let's just go pretty tough. We got this guy Montgomery. I remember showing the review, and he was running in off the square at centre half forward and cleaning blokes up. And he injured someone the couple of weeks earlier. So anyway,
and you could do that. You know, that was the biggest fear that I had.
Yeah.
Every centre bounce, every game. As I'm always, 360 going, okay. Jono, arm across, push him wide. He'll come. So you knew which ones were going to come at you. Byron Pickett, he's going to. Where's Glenn Archer? Oh, there he is. Chicky, make shot, Chicky. And I used to get filthy at my team, seriously filthy, if they didn't block and wrestle them off the line, because they did. And it wasn't as though you looked down at them. That was what they were doing. You were allowed to try and get away with it. They used to charge in. They try and knock you out.
That's right.
So it's hard to try and win the footy knowing that within a second, as soon as I grab this ball, someone's going to knock me out.
Yeah.
So it's a hard situation to be in.
Run in a million times and never hit anyone. That's the funny thing.
Yep.
So if someone says it's premeditated, I mean, I went in hard thinking he's going to line someone up, but I never ever thought that he would come straight towards me and it would be set up like it was. So I remember Mick Muldowns saying in the pre-game, he said, this bloke is 34 years old, thinks he's tough now. Don't let him run in off the square. Ryan Loney, you'll start on him. Don't let him run in. I'm thinking, that's the worst bloke you could have been.
Ryan. Ryan was like his brother Nate. They didn't go near him.
I wasn't thinking at this
beautiful
stage.
Kicks though.
They were, and at this stage, I still didn't think anything of it. And I remember Scotty Burns coming up to me. He's going, Dutchy, you're starting on the wing, aren't you? I go, yeah. He goes, just keep your eye on Monty. If he looks like he's going to run through someone, just step in front of him. I go, okay, no worries. Still to this day, I remember going in thinking nothing of it, but I'll just keep an eye on him. So as you do at the start, I remember Cooney sprinting in off the line real quick. So I thought, geez, I better take off and go with him. And I'm running as fast as I could run. And I just remember seeing his eyes light up, and I'm thinking, he's actually going to try and line someone up here. So I just kept running. And then I remember seeing Swanee just about to pick the ball up and seeing him, and it just all happened so quick. I'm thinking, geez, he's probably going to line Swanee up here if I don't step in front of him. And it just bang, and he didn't see me coming, and then he obviously fell to the turf, and there was a bit of a melee there for a bit, and it took him a while to get up. But look, I should have left him alone because he ended up kicking 4 goals and getting BOG.
So he virtually got knocked out.
Correct.
And then he's come back and he's kicked 4 goals.
Kicked 4 goals, one of the most courageous efforts I've ever seen in the game. He had the fingers,
he
going.
wouldn't be back on the field these days.
No, that's
out.
right. He would have been good, and we probably would have won.
And out for the next few weeks too.
Correct.
Concussion.
That's right.
But yet he somehow comes back, kicks 4 goals.
On. That's right.
And probably couldn't remember them.
Yeah, he wouldn't have. There's no question about that. I still wish I hadn't have done it. Looking back now, because I had a bad Achilles at the time, and I needed time to rest. I probably needed an operation. And they said, you've got till sort of April, May next year off. Let's just rest it right through. And it just didn't come right. I got back to training that next year in March, sort of March, running again. I was still cooked. So I should have had an operation. If I didn't have the suspension, I reckon they would have put me in for operation. But anyway, that's another story. But that was unfortunate because we finished 5th, should have been top 4, and Bulldogs snuck into the 8, and they beat us in the elimination final, and we're out. First up. That was shattering.
And it was almost.
Do you remember that
run.
incident, Quinny?
I do. I was at that game.
Oh, were you?
It was a massive melee afterwards as well. I think you're selling the melee shorts.
How good
as
were
well.
melees? Melees were great, weren't they?
But it was like
no
Dermot
one really
Brereton,
got
like
hurt.
he was out, and then they put him forward to recover, and then he kept hitting the scoreboard. But it was a great day at the G that day. Huge crowd, but not great for Collingwood. And it was almost the end of that little run as well. Just as quickly as it started making those grand finals, little lull then came good, and then they sort of rebooted again after that.
That's right. Yeah. So in 2007 and 8, we had some success, obviously prelims, and building it up towards obviously 2010. But 2008, 2006, I missed 5 games with Achilles. 2007, most of the year. 2008, most of the year as well. Coming back from an operation, so 2.5 years I hadn't played. So the unfortunate part was my best footy was between 2003 and 2006, 4 years in a row, really consistent, and I felt like I belonged in AFL for the first time, and I was a consistent AFL footballer, and then all of a sudden I hardly played again at all, and then I was delisted at the end of 2008. I wanted to keep going, but they said enough's enough, we can't carry you anymore, sort of thing.
Every time I read a story about you, it features 2 words: fan favourite. What did it mean to be so loved by the Collingwood faithful, and what do you think appealed about yourself to them?
I don't know. I think because I had that little period where I was a goal kicker, and everyone loves a goal kicker, and then you go and tag.
Well, they've got a blonde Collingwood player at the moment, who's sort of a bit similar, I think, just the way he goes about it and plays with a bit of energy.
He's probably got a bit more confidence than I had.
He is very confident. But I love that, you know.
I do too. I reckon it's
like it's funny because everyone complains about the players are vanilla these days. And we finally get a player who he wants to light up every time he gets involved, and he's feels happy. He interacts with the crowd, and then everyone jumps on there and go, "Oh, he can't carry on like that," and that's a disgrace. Whereas, about time we get a few more, of the newer generation giving us something back, someone that we don't want to. You can dislike if you don't want to, or you can absolutely love the way he goes about it. So, but goal kicking, what's gone wrong? Because you're a good shot at goal, and I just don't understand why, especially forwards.
I don't see what's so hard about it, to be honest.
It's not that hard, is it? It's like the man in your head plays a massive role. As soon as you get it, you got to have the confidence to kick it. But why has it been such a problem over the last 10 years?
I just don't know. I do think there was a period there, it's probably towards the end, where they went away from goal kicking as much. Got to keep the hip flexors and the lower back fresh and only do 10 kicks. And I remember Fev saying something about he used to go down the local oval down the road to have some kicks because they wouldn't let him kick at training because he was had too many kicks.
And it worked most of the time.
Yeah. So, but I think it's just practice when you're young and just getting the technique right. My old man was a really good state player in Tassie, and he taught me how to kick at a young age, and goal kicking was one of my things, and I always used to practice and then had a set routine. I'd know exactly how many steps that I would take. I would have 6 steps and then 11 jogging steps, and then I would kick on the 12th stride. I would actually count in my head how many steps and then how many strides. Occasionally you'd stuff it up, but because in your head you've got this...
It's probably a good little distraction for your head as well.
It's the distraction more than anything, I think.
Whereas I reckon Travis Cloke had about 150 things that he would think about. Yeah. And, sometimes he just wouldn't kick a goal. But, I just, especially yourself being a goal kicker, I just don't understand, especially the easy shots for goal, I just don't understand why they're missing.
Yeah, it's definitely, obviously, the pressure of the game's getting more, it's getting bigger and bigger. And you've got social media now, and you're sort of thinking in your head, geez, if I miss this, they're going to slaughter me on Instagram tonight. You didn't have that. You just had the Herald Sun. They might give you a little bit of a splash down there, but that's about it. And you don't visually see, thousands of people talking about it. So that could be something to do with it. But I do think that the practice component has got a whole lot to do with it as well.
You mentioned Fremantle had a bit of a drinking culture when you were at the Dockers. What was it like at Collingwood off-field?
No, look, a lot more tame, obviously. Like, we had some really strong leaders, with Nathan Buckley and Scott Burns and Paul Akira, and they knew how to have fun at the right times, but they were, obviously very professional in their approach. And I did have one good year with Chris Tarrant, hanging out with Chris Tarrant for 1 year. That was a lot of fun. I thought I'd better, stop doing this too often. So my second year at Collingwood, I really switched on and became real professional, and preparation and training became my thing from probably 2002-3 onwards. It was a different culture. Like, it was just, even guys like Tuck and Lockyer and, Josh Fraser, there was leaders everywhere.
Yeah.
Guys that just were obsessed with making it happen and getting the culture right. And sometimes it was a little bit it could be nearly over the top, trying to, in terms of, if guys get out of hand and do the wrong thing, then the leadership group would take ownership of that and sanction players and things like that. It was nearly probably a touch too that way at one stage, but it was really good for us, good for the young guys. The young guys would come in and get drafted, this is the way we do it. Geez, I better do all the right things. Completely different to obviously Fremantle. And, and Bucks had a big say in everyone's off-field and on-field, obviously, the way they went about things. And, he was fantastic. He probably spent more time with individual players and, any other coaches or players at the club, and he's had to worry about his own game and the leadership group and other things as captain as well. So he was fantastic for the footy club.
And what about? So obviously you had a president called Eddie McGuire.
Yep.
So what was it like having a president like him? Because from what I know of him from Channel 9 and the Footy Show days, was that he'd back you in 100%. You felt like, gee, he'd go into the trenches with me if he ever had to.
Yeah.
So was he like that as a president?
Certainly was. Like, once you're a Collingwood person, whether you played one game or 300 games, he will look after you, in many ways. If I called him and I needed a favour for something now, there's no doubt he'd drop everything and help. So look, he was great. I probably only had one little barmy in my whole time with Eddie over the course. And
what happened?
Actually, it's a funny story. We're talking suspensions again. I was tagging Paul Williams at Sydney. Got done for a high.
Well, you got suspended for that, didn't you?
Let's call it a high tackle.
Did you get suspended for that?
I got 2 weeks.
Yeah, right. And for a high tackle. Jeez, that's harsh.
Yeah, I know. Everyone thought the Herald's son thought I should have got 8 weeks, and I only got 2. And in those days, you could plead guilty under provocation because Willow gave me a couple of jumper punches first, and I just retaliated. Anyway, try and cut a long story short if I can. We that week everyone was going, I can't believe you only got 2 weeks, blah blah. Herald Sun, The Age, all on the footy media channels on TV, and Eddie goes, rightio, Footy Show this week. I'm going to get you on. This is what we're going to do. And anyway, it was actually I had the CEO's phone at the time. It was Greg Swan's phone. Actually, I shouldn't be saying this, should I? I've let the cat out of the bag. That doesn't really matter. No, anyway, Greg Swan hands me his phone and goes, "It's Eddie. Whatever he says, just say no." And so I grab the phone and I go, "G'day, Ed. What do you want, mate?" And he goes, "Oh, look, everyone's carrying on about this suspension. Why don't we get you in the Footy Show? I've got a great idea. We'll get you in the Footy Show. We'll get you dressed up like you're in prison. So you got your prison gear on. You got the black and white stripes, prison gear, and we'll put you behind bars for the whole night." Right, and he goes, "We'll keep cutting back towards you, and we'll make a bit of fun out of it, so it's a bit more fun." Blah blah blah. And I'm only saying no because Swanee's told me to say no.
So you said no to Eddie.
I would have probably.
You said no to Eddie.
So I said no. I said, "Oh, look, not this time, Ed. Like I feel a bit bad about what's happened on the weekend. I just want to keep a low profile for the next couple of weeks." And Swanee's going, "No." I like doing that one
because it would have been challenging, from a club's point of view. Because it's like, you got to be out there, but let's just focus or refocus on the footy side of things. Shut it down.
That's right.
So, did you end up doing it?
I didn't do it. No. I said,
What did Eddie? Did he get angry with you?
Yeah, he was swearing and carrying on. He let loose. I've never heard him speak like that. But everything I've done for you, your missus works for Channel 9, and I'm thinking, oh, geez, where are we going with this?
She's got the job herself. What more does she need to do?
Yeah, exactly. And he goes, blah blah blah, and no, it was all good in the end. But I think he was just trying to press me right to the end to get me to do it. He's probably had a board meeting and said, "I've got this great idea this week. Well, I'll make it happen, boys." And then he's had to go back and say, "Sorry, I can't get him to do it."
Sorry, a player from the club I'm president at will not do what I want them to.
Well, you used to go on the Footy Show a bit, which was good. You used to go in there and you you've got that personality to muck around, have a bit of fun, and laugh at yourself and stuff
correct.
like that. I'm surprised that he let you back on after that. Actually.
Surprised he didn't delist you.
Yeah, no, he was all right. He's funny. He'll crack the shits on some things. Like he used to come out if the boys had the wrong socks on or something. He'd just let loose every now and then. What are you doing with those Puma socks on?
Yep.
And it'd be like an 18-year-old kid that hasn't even shaken his hand yet, and he'd just go, and then next thing you know, he's got his arm around you the next week, and so he was good like that. He was firm but fair. But yeah, that was the only time I'd ever really had a sort of little falling out of some sort with Ed.
I didn't have too many fights with him, but there was one Footy Show, and as you know, when he was hosting the Footy Show, he used to ask all the questions as well. So as soon as, if he wanted to push that, he would just get in there and take over, and you just sort of sat back and thought, I'll just sit back and watch what goes on. So we got to the end of the first segment, and Eddie was driving all the questions. I don't know who we were talking to or what was going on, and then he's come over to the panel. But he directed it at me. He said, "Get yourself involved in the show." Like, really yelled it. And I said, "Well, how can I when you're asking all the bloody questions?" So I went straight back at him. And I thought, that's probably not a good career move. Anyway, he went back over there. But as you said, we just got on with it. He's like, "Get yourself into the show." But I'm like, how do you get yourself into a show when, you got the host asking all the questions and taking charge? But no, he'll always have your back.
Yeah, no.
And he'll get in the trenches
he was,
with you.
Like obviously with suspensions and backing you up in the media and things like that. And yeah, look, a couple of off-field indiscretions at different stages, which he's been able to hide for me and things like that. I won't go into those, but
don't want to just drop one or two of them realities.
He was sensational, and I've got a lot to thank him for over the journey.
Mick Muldowns?
Yeah, love Mick. We was obviously I've come from a couple of coaches that were interesting characters at Fremantle to Mick when he was right up in his prime. Great coach. He probably helped me reinvent my career as a tagger and got me into the midfield and said, look, I trust you if you got the form, got the fitness, I'll give you opportunity. So there was stages where he probably could have just gone with what he knew, and that's keep Lucuria in there or whoever else, and he gave me opportunity and then he just left me there after that. So, but yeah, we had a really good relationship. But Mick was one of those coaches that would, if you're in good form, he wouldn't say too much to you. He'd just go, give you a wink and a bit of a pat on the bum, and if you're in ordinary form, look out. He'd ride you like you wouldn't believe. But I remember, I think it was the start of 2003. 2004. The next year, Paul Lucuria and I were in the gym, and he just walked past, and we were actually talking about him, saying, "Geez, he's riding us hard at the moment," because we were in okay form, but we weren't playing where we should be. And he walks past, he goes, and he's got his hands on his hips, and he used to do this and look at you real weird. And he's going, "Oi, you two, what the bloody hell's wrong with you two at the moment?" Like, real serious. And he just walks off, and that's it. And so you just go, shit, we better have a good one. We better have a good one this week, or we're going to be in
And
trouble.
you and Lucuria, you would have been doing bicep curls at the time. Like, you would have been. Everyone's done their weights.
Yeah, that's right.
There's you two doing your bicep
And
curls and your bench
while he was
press.
on the other side there too, Shane Woden, doing a few triceps as well. Yeah, we used to make a conscious effort to stay in the gym 20 minutes longer than everyone else, and the days of, we'll do some eccentric loading on the biceps and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't really help you get a kick, does it?
But they used to work because you did a lot away from footy as well.
Actually reminds me, if I can just
calendars.
If I can cut in just for 1 sec, this is a good story, and it's about Mick and about the gym.
Yes, yeah.
But I remember I tagged Ben Cousins in a pre-season game in West Coast, and he absolutely towed me. And I was the most ripped and fit looking that I've ever been in my life, right? And at the end of at the review after the game, he goes, "Holland," he goes, "they don't help you, those abs things, they don't help you much, do they?" He goes, "What about the guns? How are they looking tonight?" Like he's just ripping into me. And then he goes, if you look up the word abdominals in the dictionary, you'll see a picture of Brodie Holland in there. He goes, "Does it help you get a kick, son?" No.
Was there a bit of humour in there, or was he very angry at the time?
There was a bit of humor, but no, he was really angry at the time. But I think he just kind of liked to.
He said, "Mate, pre-season game."
Yeah.
Why am I going to play my cards pre-season game?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah,
So,
talking back would have been a good idea.
Yeah, maybe not. But that's quite funny. They want you to be fit and, looking at your very best.
Yeah.
And then he rips into you.
Yeah.
You got all these abs. Why?
Yeah.
What's the point of that?
Yeah, exactly right. No, but he was good. Look, he was quite funny, Mick. Like I don't think he tried to be funny, to be honest, but he was actually, he was just, when he'd have a dig at someone and, just an opposition player too, he'd occasionally have a dig at how soft they were and change their names and things like that just to suit. So that was kind of funny, but that was good because it gave you a bit of ammo when you got to game day and, for sledging. You knew what to say.
So you knew he was tough. So how was he with you doing stuff away from footy? So you used to do boxer short parades and, you're in the men's calendars and stuff like that for a while. So how was he with that? Was he okay?
He was actually fine with all that stuff. As long as you turned up and you played hard and you got the job done, he really wouldn't care what you did.
Yep.
But look out if you're doing too much of that and you're not playing well. He'd. But I remember at one stage, we come to contract time, probably the best season that I ever had in 2005. Nearly won the Copeland that year, and I was trying to stick my hand out for a bit more cash, and they were trying to pull me back, and I was asking for more, and no.
So who do you go and have those conversations with?
Just my manager at the time.
Oh, okay,
so,
just saying, hey,
I was with because you were with Ned too, weren't you? Yeah, so I was with Ned and their mob. And,
conflicted, that's a former Collingwood, premiership player, Craig Kelly.
Yeah, well, I was.
All he wanted to do was make sure Bucks was looked after, and then everyone else, who cares?
That's what I tell him now, too, you know what I'm saying? But, no, he... I went in to negotiate and, look, I never was on money. Like, I never really got good money. Probably the best money I got was when I got traded, and it still wasn't great. It was okay. So I was never on good money. I was all sort of mediocre money. I finally got top 5 in the best and fairest twice, second in the BNF, and I was probably the most improved player on the list, and I wanted a little bit more cash. And I think we had some salary cap issues by the looks of things. So
back then, Collingwood. Geez.
Yeah, look, I think they were squeezed a little bit, or they were trying to squeeze me so they could get more out of someone else.
That's what they say all the time. Every club, we've got salary cap issues.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
right.
You're kidding, aren't you?
Yeah.
We're last on the ladder for the last 4 years. You're telling me we're paying some of these players top money?
That's right. Yeah, it makes you wonder sometimes. But I in the end, they said to me, and the manager sort of helped with this, and they said, look, Brodie is getting some decent money off field at the moment with Dancing with the Stars and this, that and the other. Can he continue doing as much of this stuff as he can to cater for what he might be missing on the contract? And they were open to that, and that was the only way they could get me to sign the dotted line, even though I was never going to leave, but I just wanted a little bit more, thought I deserved a little bit more at that stage. But for the next couple of years, they let me, I was a bit open sailor for stuff off field.
Now, normally on a footy field, it seems like you go hard at each other, you say what you've got to say, and you shake hands at the end of the game.
Yeah.
A famous player from Port Adelaide did not take that approach with you, named Kane Corns.
He didn't want to shake your hand.
Worse.
Cornsy.
Not only did he not shake his hand, walked up to him, stuck his middle finger up at him and walked off the field.
Did he really?
Yeah,
what happened?
True story. Look, he was pretty young. I would have been probably 22, and he would have been probably a couple of years younger. He would have been 18, 19, 20 maybe. I can't remember, but he was fairly young coming through, and obviously we all knew the Corns name and all the rest of it. And the easiest sledge of all time would be to say what? To Kane Corns?
Not as good as your dad?
You're only here because of your dad.
You're only here because of your dad.
Oh, okay.
So I used that one on him. And he goes, I haven't heard that one before. And I go, well, it's because it's true. And we just kept at each other all day. Anyway, they'd won, I think, less than a goal. It was one of those nail biters, and I was ready. I had the arm cocked, ready to shake his hand. And
is there footage of this?
He's giving me the bird. So
is it on camera?
Yeah, you can sort of half see it.
Oh,
You can see him from a distance giving him the bird. And I just ran at him and gave him a big push and shove.
This is after the siren.
After the siren, yeah. And then there was a little bit of, not a melee, but just a bit of a light push and shove. People just breaking it up and all the rest of it. And that was it. So anyway, I remember I was thinking, that was a bit dirty, blah blah, and then we got spat on the way off the ground.
That was a regular occurrence. Yeah. At Adelaide Oval, was it?
Amy stayed.
Yeah,
Amy Stadium.
okay.
So
that was a.
And you're right. You had all the Port supporters were right there when you used to come off. It was,
I used to hate it.
daunting.
Like when you run out,
Yeah.
and especially your captain, you lead the way.
Yeah.
you used to look around and go, oh, there's a couple of young boys. Come up here. You come up. You lead the way out, boys. Yeah. I'm just going to grab something. So you push them out first. They cop it, and then you sneak out the way
behind.
you go. You know they're waiting for you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but look, I remember, I think it was Ryan Loney again. He must have been mates with Cornsey, and he got the message. Oh, tell Dutch. He said, "I'm sorry. I don't know what was come over me." Tell him I said, "I'm sorry. I'm really ashamed of what I did." Blah blah blah. And I said, "I'd tell him, don't worry about it. We've moved on now. No dramas." But I think it came up in the media about a year ago.
Right. Yep.
And he said,
Did you whack him
I've
the
never
very
had
next
this
game
chance
you
to
played?
say this, but I want to apologise to Collingwood Footy Club and Brodie Holland.
He's been holding on to it for a while.
Exactly. That's right. So
We
that
all
was
do
interesting.
things that we look back on and think, okay. But that's what it does, you know. Pressure of the game, you want to do well. Everyone's,
Correct.
sort of, they just get in your heads and say, this is it, life or death. You've got to find a way to win.
That's right.
So you act very differently.
That's right.
To what we are these days.
Yeah.
Where
Very
it's
mature,
like,
sophisticated.
I wouldn't say that, Quinny.
Now, Brodie, there's lots of talk about Tassie getting a team.
Yes.
Do you think they should? And if they had one when you were playing, would you have gone back to play for them?
I would have loved to have played for Tassie, and that's one thing I would love to do in future if they were to get a team, and I think they'll get one. Is go down and help out in some capacity, whether it be coaching or development or whatever.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love to do that. I know Brendan Bolton's been a big push, Chris Fagan as well. Chris Fagan was my under-18s coach.
Was he really? Yeah.
Brendan Bolton was my roommate in the
right.
under-18s as well.
Oh.
So there's a bit of connection there. We're like the Indigenous boys. We're pretty close, our Tassie crew. Not too close.
So what I've heard down in Tasmania, we spent a lot of time down there at the Hawks. But a lot of good football people from down that way.
Yeah, that's right.
And that makes sense. And they're producing a lot of good coaches and a lot of people who are really passionate about their footy.
That's right.
So that would be a nice little job going back there, even as in some kind of coaching capacity.
It would be
And
great.
It's a bit like what's the basketball team, the Jack Jumpers at the moment, or what?
Jumpers, yes, the Jack Jumpers.
They're gathering a bit of momentum.
Yeah.
And it would be the same with the footy. I reckon they could get a bit of momentum.
The footy, they'll get right behind the footy. You can see what's happening with Hawks and even North Melbourne. I mean, they get full crowds down there with a team that's not even really their team. It's a makeshift team for them, really. But your own team, I could see being packed out. So I remember the Tassie Devils when in the VFL, they were getting 5,000 or 6,000 people to those games, and I remember.
Yeah, if you have a Tasmanian team, they have to be called the Tassie Devils.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yep.
It just makes sense.
Yeah.
Or you can't give me anything out. What else could you possibly call them?
Tigers?
Well, maybe the Tassie Tigers.
I don't think it could be two Tiger teams in the
The
golf.
Tassie Thylacines.
the Tassie Devils just works. There's still a few Tassie Devils down that way too.
I'll
You
take
can
your
go
word
and-
for that one.
What's it called? Cradle Mountain. There's a little sit up there where you can go and have a look at a few.
Near a nudist beach?
It's a bit chilly down that way. Well, they do have this nude swim next to the casino once a year where there's about 500 charge into the water. What's the river there called?
Derwent River.
The Derwent River.
Yeah.
And they swim out around and back in, and it's
It's just cold in there. You wouldn't be.
You wouldn't be trying to
embarrassing
advertise
getting
yourself there, no. It's an innie,
It'd
not
be
an
nearly
outie.
like that night on the Footy Show, wouldn't it?
With Sam, it wasn't even cold that night, but it looked very cold with him. So now you mentioned Dancing with the Stars. You on? How'd you find that? Because it's amazing. Footy gets you an opportunity to do other things, and you don't have to do them if you don't want to. But what a great opportunity to try and test yourself to do something very different. And how did you go? Were you a blue light disco operator back in Hobart?
I was never much of a dancer, to be honest. I used to have a crack, but I wasn't much of a dancer. But that was fun. Like I had an absolute ball.
Was that in Sydney or Melbourne?
I was it was Melbourne based. So as soon as the season finished 2005, and look, I probably should have been given my Achilles arrest at this stage too. Because I reckon it nearly cost me
that probably didn't help.
another 4 years of my career dancing with the stars. It was obviously pretty tough, 5 hours a day training and all the rest of it. And once I had the dance down pat, I would just go, no, I've done enough. I'm done.
Yep.
Because I thought, I'm not going to get through. I'm not a good dancer. As long as I know the steps.
You hung around for a while, though, didn't you?
I got through to the 8th round. I finished 4th. But I had to go. I ended up having to go to a training camp. They started pre-season touch early and we went to Arizona. The training camp, so I ended up having to.
You didn't fly. Well, dance partner. What?
No, what we did was we pre-recorded 5 dances just in case I got through in 1 week.
Oh,
it was the worst, and then I had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning in Arizona to do the crossover. And mate, my eyes were like this. I've been training like you wouldn't believe in Arizona in altitude.
You're desperate, altitude, and you need your sleep.
Yeah, and I got up and I had the Mexican hat on.
And so did your teammates know what's going on in that other room? They pop their head in and then
they took me off.
Brodie with his Mexican hat on on the dance floor.
Yeah, no, it was. It wasn't quite like that.
Imagine Bucks popping his head in. The seriousness of Nathan Buckley.
I don't think they told Bucks. I don't think he would have let it happen. So, but unfortunately, because I had to leave and go, I think I had the most votes. They said I had the most votes leading into the week that I had to leave. But most people, I think, in the public thought that I had to leave no matter what. So my votes dropped anyway from top to bottom. And I was gone. So, and that left me at 4th. So they thought that we better pre-record these dances because he's going to get through based on his votes that previous week. But they look, a lot of fun. Had a ball with it. Met some good people and some great friends. And I probably I was really shy in front of the camera probably up until that stage. So at least it gave me a little bit. It's like doing a media course all in 10 weeks. Bang, and just you learn. Well,
they're trying
quickly.
To get stuff out of you, and they want that conversation to come out of you and tell us what you're thinking, what's going through your head. And who else was in your year? Was there?
I had Dicko. We had Chris Barth, the newsreader. She won it. Ada Nicodemu. She finished
home and away.
Yeah, home and away. She finished 2nd. We had David Campbell, who's
now on Channel 9.
Yep.
Right.
So basically, everyone's gone on with it except for me.
You probably find everyone. You probably find that everyone's nice to be around, nice to work with.
Yeah. Good people. They were great. We had some fun times too. We had some good after parties after the show, and but it was just I just love getting in that day where you get the green room and it's just the build up to the night, and you do the pre-rehearsals and then a dress rehearsal. You have a couple of drinks before you go on. You're getting the makeup done, and everyone's vibed. And
live too at times.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
All right, okay. Yeah. I've only got one crack at this.
Yeah, it was fun. And Dicko used to go. I remember he could just feel the when we're all nervous, Dicko would go, "At first I was afraid, I was petrified," and everyone just starts singing. So that was a lot of fun, and I became quite good friends with Dicko through all of that. And it was good. And like I said, I probably shouldn't have done it because it probably cost me a little bit with the Achilles. Because I remember coming back to train and going, "Oh, geez, I'm still a bit sore with this Achilles." Yeah. And I missed 2 weeks at the start of the pre-season. I think it's the first time I've told anyone this actually. So hopefully Mick's not listening. I'll probably cost him.
I think they would have worked it all out.
Well, they got their flag, so they'll be happy. But it would have been nice to hang on for another couple of years and be part of 2010, but it wasn't to be.
Brodie, we've loved having a chat to you today. We're going to finish with some quick fire questions.
Yep.
Biggest footy highlight?
The biggest footy highlight would have to be grand final week. Not grand final day because it wasn't great, but just that whole week, I would say.
Biggest footy regret?
Probably not talking to Mick in that week leading into the grand final and saying, "Put me in, I'll make it happen."
Best sledge you heard on a footy field?
I remember...
Probably the finger from Kane Corner.
I remember Jess Sinclair saying to the Geelong boys, McGuire and Barry Stoneham, "I'd rather be dead than be red."
Oh, gee. And he's half their size.
We were up by 5 goals and lost by 10 after that comment. You let us say that. Is that racist or something these days?
No.
Or what is that?
No.
Provoking the
What category
rednecks,
did
not
that go
smart.
You know,
into
you got to pick your target.
discrimination.
You got to pick your targets. He's picking two guys who are
Oh,
6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, well, I think the call was because we had about 5 blokes with ponytails, and he was running past like a little poodle with his his hair tied up.
yeah,
He
the
goes, look at
circle.
all these soft you-know-whats
Yep.
with the ponytails. And he goes, I'd rather be dead than be red. As he trotted off like a little poodle.
And final one, best spray you heard from a coach.
Best spray. Oh, geez. Seen some pretty good sprays. Look, I still reckon, even though I couldn't hear what he was saying, Mick Muldowns after the grand final, because he was yelling obscenities, everything, having a crack at everybody. I don't know what he said, but it was just loud. It was very loud.
Loud and angry.
Loud and angry. Yep.
Not something that you are, but you've been an absolute star on this podcast. Well done on a 155-game career, and thanks so much for having a chat today, Brodie.
Thanks, Quinny. Appreciate it, mate. Cheers.
Good on you, Brodie.
Yeah, cool.